Alright, so since I've been talking about parking recently, now, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you get a PCN, a penalty charge notice in the post, you should always appeal it, even when you know you're in the wrong. Now, if you get a PCN in the post and you haven't done anything wrong, you parked somewhere, you were allowed to park there, it was a mistake on their part and they sent you the PCN in the post, of course, appeal that, send off the proof, all that kind of stuff that you would normally do, and it should come back saying, hey, our bad, sorry about that, you don't have to pay the fine. However, even when you know you're in the wrong, even when you know you parked somewhere you shouldn't have parked, or you stopped in a yellow box knowing you should not have stopped in a yellow box, whatever the incident may have been, it was in a restricted area, this, that, and the third, you know you're in the wrong, so you get that PCN in the post, you should still appeal it anyway, and I'm going to tell you why. So when you get a PCN in the post, what typically happens is that they'll give you about a month or so to pay it, right? And the total fine would be about £130. It does vary from council to council, but about £130, at least in London anyway, is usually what it's around. However, if you pay it within 2 weeks, it's then reduced by half to £65. Now, when you know you're in the wrong, when you know you parked somewhere you shouldn't have parked, you might be thinking, oh, you know what? I parked somewhere I shouldn't have parked. Let me just pay the £65 within the 2 weeks so I don't at least have to pay the full 130. Here's what you should do. So you've got 2 weeks to pay it from the date of the letter. So count 2 weeks from the date of that letter, and around 2 to 3 days before that, set yourself a reminder to appeal it. Not pay it, to appeal it. Set yourself a reminder to appeal it. And you want to do it 2 to 3 days before, just to make sure there's no issues with, like, you know, working days and weekends and stuff like that. So like, do 2 to 3 days before, set yourself a reminder to appeal it. Now once that day comes, appeal it. Go online, do it online, don't do it in the post. Do it online and appeal it. Go to their section, appeal it. If whatever reason you want to give, but appeal it. At that point, they then put your PCN on hold while they assess your appeal. And that might take a few days, a few weeks, it could take up to a month in some cases, but in any case, it gives you some extra time. Now, you know you're in the wrong, so whenever they come back to you, whether that's a few days later or a few weeks later or a month later, whenever it is, they're gonna come back and say, sorry, but you have to pay this fine. At that point, you then have another 1 month from the date of that letter to pay the full £130 fine, or 2 weeks from the date of that new letter to pay the £65 fine, which means you've now given yourself 4 weeks and maybe a few days to pay that £65 fine. Now, why would you want to do all that? Why not just pay it and be done with it? Well, now I've talked to you guys before about having savings accounts, and hopefully you've taken that advice and you got yourself a savings account. And if you have, and you've got a savings account that calculates interest daily, the longer that money sits in your account, you're earning more interest on that money. What it comes down to is the longer you can hold on to your money, the better it is for you. Now, you still have to pay that fine, because if you don't, it goes to 130, you got the full fine. Of course, if you don't pay that, it gets even worse and can be taken to court, so you still have to pay it. That's why you set yourself reminders, make sure you actually do pay it. But the first let you get, count 2 weeks from that date, few days before that, 2-3 days before that, set yourself a reminder to appeal it. They'll then do their checks and be like, yeah, you're gonna have to pay this fine. But at that point, you now have another 2 weeks from the date of that new letter to pay that fine. So you've given yourself more time overall, money sits in your account longer, you still only pay that £65, and whether you have a savings account or not, it just gives yourself more time to do it rather than having to rush.